computer.
Microphone.
Hello, and thanks for being here. Welcome to Making Sense of It. I am Mona Duncan, and we are continuing today with Professor Robert J. Martin, and he is continuing to explain to us his upcoming book on balancing life and work. And today we're going to be talking, he's going to be sharing with us about expectations. So, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. And Robert, we're ready when you are. Take us away.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about stress and expectations. And this is a really good time to talk about this since we have just finished Thanksgiving and now we're starting Christmas. I don't know about everybody else, but I am like super busy and just all of these things. I just got a call a few minutes ago that a storm door that I was waiting for has arrived, and I need to go and pick that up today, and all kinds of things. So yeah, I mean, this is a time of the year when we get very, very busy. So anyway, I think stress is a really good really good topic for this. So I'm going to start with seeing if we can seeing if I can share a screen here. So let's go to share screen. And are you all seeing that?
Yes.
And now has it
There you go. You got it.
Okay, very good. So I'm going to back up here a minute. I'm just trying to get, okay, good. So turning stress into an asset, I'm not suggesting that I or anybody else do anything crazy like on this slide, but I thought it was a fun slide, so I wanted to share it. So turning stress into an asset rather than seeing it as something negative. So stress is part of living. The trick is to manage it. And of course, it can be positive or negative. The thing to realize is it's not the situation itself that's stressful, like the lightning. It's our reaction to the situation. And this is an old idea that goes back to all the way to, I believe, Hans Selye talking about stress and so on. So the key strategy here is to revise our expectations. And we're going to talk about some ways of doing that, some strategies. So the first one is, which I think is really important, is revising the myth of ourselves as somebody who should be Superman or Superwoman. I love this slide. I think it's really funny. And I thought, yeah, this is as soon as you set yourself up to, and we don't even necessarily think that way. It's just that it's sort of hidden down in our expectations of ourselves. And I'll review what some of those are. So I should always be totally, these are things that I adopt for myself. I think I should always be totally consistent and never slack out off, do everything perfectly, never show favoritism, especially as a teacher, since that's a lot what I mostly did. Always put others first, always support others, even when they're harsh or mean or thoughtless or wrong, you know, like your boss kind of thing. And it doesn't matter whether you're a student or a teacher or a parent or have an adult child of a parent. It's like when we set ourselves up to do these things, they're just impossible. So it doesn't work. I think that's the key idea. So the payoff, well, why do we do this? Well, there's always some kind of a payoff for adopting expectations or adopting ideas. So one is we get to think highly of ourselves. But on the other hand, we're not nearly as effective as we could be by being more realistic. And that's really what reality therapy and choice theory are all about, because they're really about what can I do, what can I control, not what's there that might be controlled. So the big idea, and this is the first one, is one I got from a friend of mine who is also a fellow teacher, and that was we were both very conscientious in terms of having students do a lot of things and giving them quizzes and all this sort of thing. But he always came back to the idea, well, whatever you do, you got to be reasonable with yourself. In other words, be reasonable in what you choose to do. Work hard, have high expectations of others, do whatever you can to ensure that happens, but then be reasonable, and then take care of yourself as well as you take care of others. We tend not to treat ourselves as valuable or as important as others. Maybe that's because we're all familiar with the idea of narcissism and the fact that the world is all about me, and it's like, oh, I don't want to be like that. So I end up taking better care of others than I take care of myself, and that's just not a good idea. That's a good thing to be burned out. So we need to ask ourselves, okay, well, how would I treat a friend? What would I say to a friend when they make a mistake, or when they do something wrong, versus when I do something wrong, when I make a mistake? And I can tell you, I make plenty. So let's just start out with a few strategies in addition to changing our expectation. That's the big strategy. But then there are these other strategies. One that I learned, and I don't even know who I learned this from, but I have to keep reminding myself, and that is, things take as long as they take. I can plan what I'm going to do, but then how long it takes, even if I'm the one who's doing the work, I don't control how long it takes, because it's involving myself in doing something with materials, with ideas, with presentations, whatever it happens to be. It's going to take as long as it takes, and the strategy is just keep reminding yourself, well, this is going to take as long as it takes, and I'm not going to get discouraged. So here's a thing from Albert Ellis and rational emotive therapy. Is very interesting. I believe that Dr. Glasser and Dr. Ellis met together and found that they had a lot in common. But Ellis's big thing was change demands to preferences. Instead of saying, I should do this, I must do this, I should do this, or you should do this, you must do this, you should do it. This, to say I prefer. As soon as you change things to prefer, you're putting a whole lot stress on yourself. When we're demanding of the universe or ourselves, it's kind of like playing God. Well, I'm going to demand the universe act in a certain way. Well, lots of luck with that. Try it, see where it will get you. And that's a good approach when other people say, well, I'm going to do blah, 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 like, and you don't agree with them. And it's like, well, okay, try it and see what'll happen. Rather than arguing with them that, okay, this is never going to work. And you know you're right, but you just tell them, well, okay, well, you'll just have to see what happens. So preferring instead of demanding, or what Ellis would call it, demandingness. And he had a little song, demandingness will get you less than what you really want. And whininess increases stress and leaves you haggard and gaunt. Okay, anyway, so we need to revise our language from I have to, should, must. Things have to be the way that I want it to be, or it's tragic. To say, and that's often how we feel. When I don't get what I want, it's like, well, this is a tragedy. And it's like, no, it's just life. I prefer things to be the way I want, but when they aren't, it's not tragic. It's unfortunate, and I need to live with it. And sometimes those can even be tragic things having to do with sickness or health or other people or jobs or whatever. And the point is when we stress ourselves, it makes it hard for us to deal with those things. So one of the things I learned from Ellis is to ask myself, and I often do this with clients, is to say, well, okay, do I control the universe? Do I control time, space, other people? And this is interesting. Or if you're dealing with clients, well, wait a minute. Ask yourself, are you God? Do you control the universe? And it's interesting, like for people who are used to having control, it's like they have to think about that. They don't have an immediate answer. They don't say, well, no, I'm not God. It's like, well, let me think about that. And this fits very well with Glasser's whole idea that we can't control other people. We can't control the universe. The only person we can control is ourselves. And often we have trouble doing that. So I think asking ourselves, am I God? Do I control the universe? Is a quick and easy way to get control of that idea. Even though we already know the idea, when we ask ourselves the question, then the answer, oh, I guess I'm not God. I guess I don't control the universe. And so that's a way of practicing the ideas of reality therapy and choice theory. So the next thing is to accept things as they are. And people have a great deal of trouble. Well, I don't want to accept this. It's not right, blah, blah, blah. Accepting doesn't mean agreeing. It just means accepting, yeah, that's the way it is. And now let me look at, well, what can I do about it? And maybe it's nothing. I mean, that's one of the answers that can come when you ask the question. This is I sum all of Glasser down to this one question, and that is, from reality therapy. What can I do about it? What can you do about it? Sometimes it's nothing. And then, as he says, well, then you can change how you look at it. If nothing else, you change how you look at it. Well, it's there, and I can't fix it. I can't change it. So I can change myself and how I realize that I don't need to frustrate myself over something that I'm not going to do something. So we had a rehearsal last night, and our director, who's also a reverend, was said he was visiting that day, a couple hours before, a family where one of the individuals was in hospice. He was dying, and at one point, this individual, or it's like, why are you being so serious? And it was like, oh, okay, sorry about that. I guess I was and of course he didn't say this. It was just like, well, I'm in this situation where, you're dying and whatever. And it's like, so I can't do anything about it except be here to provide some comfort and some support. And I thought that was just amazing that was what was said. It was like, why are you being so serious? Like, oh, okay, sorry, I'll do better. So I thought that was a wonderful story. And he's not the sort of person who's overly serious. He's always joking and being positive, and that's how he runs his rehearsals. So another strategy is, instead of asking why does this happen to me? Why? On Saturday, I came back early from Illinois to Missouri because there was going to be bad weather. And in fact, we have snow on the ground. And before it even started snowing or whatever, I was going somewhere on a through street, and somebody who had a stop sign Well, so for some reason they either slowed down but didn't quite stop and ran into me. So my car is now in the shop. So it's like, well, why did this happen? I mean, if I had just stayed in Illinois, I could have avoided this. Of course, then maybe something worse would have happened. So I made the decision, and it's like, there's no reason. The universe doesn't make special rules for me. And by asking ourselves questions, well, does the universe make special rules for me? Do other people make special rules for me? We all tend to tell ourselves, I am special. And of course, we are all special in that we're all individuals, we're all unique. But does that mean the world makes special rules for us? It's very easy for us to get that idea sometimes. So we have to be constantly, at least I do, correcting ourselves by asking these questions. Does the world make special rules for me? And sometimes even if we feel like they do, like it does, it's like we know the answer is no, it doesn't. So, hey, this happened, now I have to deal with it. And why am I stressing myself over, well, this shouldn't have happened to me. This guy should have stopped. It's like, yeah, you know what? It doesn't matter. I got out of the car. We exchanged information. The police came. We were very nice to each other. He even gave me a ride to where I was going. So it's just like I didn't get upset. It was like, and I think I'm okay. So again, what's another payoff for having expectations that are too low? And we'll come back to this. Sometimes we have expectations that are too low of ourselves. Then we don't have to make the effort to take action. But then we don't do things that we could do or that we want to do. So maybe one thing to ask ourselves is, where are my expectations too low? Where am I having trouble even dipping my toe in the water? And this is where the whole question of, well, what can I do about this to get what I want? Where can I be? To me, this is the whole idea of reality therapy and choice theory is, before we can ask ourselves, what can I do about it? We have to ask ourselves, what do I really want? And sometimes we don't even know that. So we just need to try a lot of things, which means taking a little bit of a risk. And sometimes we don't even want to put our toe in the water. So the point is if you don't even know what you want, well, just try a lot of things. Put your toe in the water and see what happens. And then another big thing from reality therapy and choice theory, and that is accept responsibility for what we do without any blame or without any guilt. We all tend to have excuses. Well, I didn't mean to do it. It was an accident. I did that because that's how I was raised. When you accept responsibility, you gain control, because new choices become available as soon as you accept responsibility. And by the way, I mean, I tried this, always tried to introduce my students to these ideas, and it was very difficult for them because, like, maybe their mother was depressed and on meds, and it was kind of like, well, depression is a disease, she can't help it, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, I can't convince them. It's takes a lot of work to realize accepting. This was, I think, such a big insight with Glasser, is saying, hey, we're not blaming you for depressing. You have good reasons to depress. The point is that when you say I'm depressing, well, then you realize, oh, well, maybe I can do something. Maybe I need some help for that. But as soon as you accept responsibility, and I'm reading a book right now by Ellen Langer where she says, oh, people accept the idea, if you're depressed, you're going to be depressed forever. Whereas when you begin to look at when is a time during the day to just observe, well, gee, I was less depressed when I was at work. Oh, okay. When you begin to notice differences, you begin to gain control. So choose expectations in terms of actions that you're capable of doing. And part of that is working to be better than we were yesterday. I'm working to improve myself. I'm not working to be better than others, because no matter how good I am, there are always people who are going to be better than I am. No matter how good you are at playing basketball or piano or whatever, or writing or whatever it is that you do, there are always going to be people who are better at it than you are. There are always people that are better than I am. The question is, I'm working to do a little better than I did yesterday. I'm working to improve. So you always want to compare yourself to yourself, never to others. On the other hand, this is a beautiful spot that we visited when we were in Mexico a year ago. A friend of mine has what she calls a valley day, meaning you're not going to be striving to climb the mountain. You're going to take a day off. Even God took a day off after creating the world. And that's a wonderful story, even if, no matter what your beliefs are. It's like you work on creating the world for 6 days, and then you take a day off. Or maybe you just take an hour off, or even 5 minutes, to get this sense of peace. And that restores your ability to de-stress and to gain some control over that. And so these strategies are all things that we can practice until they become habits. So, okay, a couple slides got messed up here. So obviously I'm not perfect. So this slide should have gone next to the one about accepting things. So why should you accept things that you don't like? Well, accepting doesn't mean agreeing. And in particular, not accepting leads to ineffective emotions and actions like anger and depression and lashing out and shutting down when we're not getting things. Whereas accepting allows us to move on and figure out what we can change. So part of this accepting responsibility, jumping back, that we were talking about as a key idea from reality therapy and choice theory, is accepting responsibility for your feelings. But the other part of that is not accepting responsibility for the feelings of others. We don't make other people feel the way the others. Maybe we disappointed them or so, but how they respond is their choice. And we're going to get manipulated if we accept responsibility for others. But we should. Okay, it's a good idea to accept responsibility for our own feelings. Then one of my last things here is, this is something that I got into teaching kids who really had trouble quitting in school. As Glasser liked to say in counseling kids in school, well, they never give you a kid who's doing well. They always give you a kid who's having trouble and say, fix him. Well, of course you can't fix him. You can teach them behaviors that they have an opportunity and practice with them, and then they have an opportunity to use those. So my favorite strategy, which is one that was developed at, I think at MIT, was stop, relax, and think. And if fifth graders could do this, then I can do it. If younger kids can do it, then we can all do this. stop what we're doing, relax our body by doing a relaxation exercise, and think what could we do about the situation that would be reasonable. So I was typically working with kids who would get mad and slug someone. Sometimes even girls who were not typical. I have had one of my favorites was a fifth grader, and one day she and some of her friends had gotten into trouble, and that's why she was seeing me. And she said, "Oh, I know a few people who could use this." So she had good insights. So that was great. I loved that. So this was the game. It's actually called Stop, Relax, and Think. And so by using the game and going through the cards and all of that, it's like you learn to stop, relax, and think by going through the game. So that was a great thing for not only de-stressing, but also for managing your anger and not smarting off to the teacher or punching one of the other kids or whatever that got you in trouble. Okay, so summary. So here on the left, we have maybe aspirations a little on the high side. Looking down from this tall tower, it's like I would be terrified. Just looking at the picture, it looks scary to me. It's like, no, that expectation is way too high for myself. And on the other hand, maybe hesitating to put my toe in the water, maybe that's a little too low. So where are my expectations too high? Where are they too low? So summarizing everything here that we've been talking about, stress is an emotion. It's an emotional response. It can motivate us to act. So I think that's a key idea here. All of these strategies can motivate us to act. So instead of seeing stress as a negative thing, even when we're feeling stressed, it can be a way for us to ask, okay, how can I use my time in a good way here to do something rather than do nothing? And that's going to put me back in control. So change the expectations to fit what you can do, not what you think you should be able to do. So, and this again comes back to reality therapy. If not now, when? It's always one of the questions of reality therapy that I used with all my clients, whether they were adults or children, whether they were students or teachers, because I worked with both. Okay, you've got a plan. When are you going to do this? And so stress engages our ability to act. So embrace it. I loved this picture. I thought, yeah, that's a picture of like, oh yeah, what am I going to do here? This is going to be tough, but I'm going to tackle it. So anyway, I love these pictures that sort of illustrate using emotions in a positive way to deal with things. Okay, so that's it.
Okay, Robert, thank you, thank you, thank you. Stop, relax, and think. Stop, relax, and think. That's a good motto to think about.
Well, again, I learned it from, probably learned it from a catalog of psychological games to use with kids. So it's like probably, everything I know I've learned from working with others. I learned it from them, from working with them. And yeah.
Right.
So I learned it myself. Yeah.
And at the
And
very beginning, I don't remember exactly what you said, but you said something about a myth. And the more you got to
yeah,
talking about it,
the myth of being the super teacher, the super boss, the super student, the superman, superwoman, and that was my slide of superwoman up there. Uh, uh, that was kind of the humorous version, and we can
okay,
still
okay,
in
yeah,
this presentation we're giving the second half. There are all of these people. They range men, women, boys, girls, literally. Some of them are like 4 years old, getting up on stage and singing with other people for this these two carousel Christmas programs that we're going to be doing on Saturday and Sunday. So it's like all ages, all ages.
fantastic. Yeah, yeah. But I found I've in looking at myths and so forth, I like that the myth of being Superman. But once you learn to stop, relax, and really think, you begin to realize you are more Superman than you might realize. And
Yeah.
that myth in the long run becomes absolute truth. We just in our selfishness, in our who we are, until we learn to stop, relax, and think, that we're just looking at it and we don't see all those invisible things that are actually there. Well,
Sure.
we're going to stop the recording now, but those of you that are here will have time to dialogue with each other and with Robert and get some more information from him. So if you're watching this at another time, remember to come in on, go to the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory and find out when Making Sense of It is available in your area and tune in and listen
Yeah,
with
because
us.
you're doing this every week, so people should tune in. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So that you can talk with us afterward. So thanks a lot and many blessings.